Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Jobadiah, otherwise known as Roman's Revenge. Today I'm talking about 9th Age Battle Report from the Abrasus League. And my opponent was Beowulf, who was with Undying Dynasties. This is my list I've been playing in 2021 so far with Empire of Sonstal. Big things to notice, I have no BSB. I put a lot of weight into 2 cannons and 90 flagellants that have to do the heavy lifting. The core units are there mostly just to score and to threaten flanks and to be bunkers for my characters. Alright. This is the Undying Dynasties list, Beowulf's list. This was a little bit different. I've only played against Undying Dynasties a couple times, though I have been collecting models, so I do understand some of the rules of them. They're not as strange as some armies I fight against. The main things, he has a Battle Sphinx, which I had not played against before, but I was counting on my cannons and rangers to take that out. He had Sandstalkers, which I have played before, and I knew those could actually be a little dangerous against flagellants if they just pop and start shooting. Um, Other interesting things, Casket of Fat Tep, which could be dangerous against my knights. And this is a favorite trick that UD players like to use. They took a small unit of skeletons and put a banner of Entombed on them so they can ambush beneath the sounds. So there you have it. Secondary objective was King of the Hill, and deployment was counter thrust on map 12. So here we go. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think I think he got to pick sides. Anyway, we both chose the wall as the terrain piece. He put down scouts. I put down flagellants. With counter thrust, you got to put down three models. So we just alternated scouts and flagellants, and then I think I must have dropped to go first, because yeah. So here we have. Basically, my plan was to defend the wall so I could score objective and then zone things with the cannons and the rangers. Yeah, so the rangers scout, so I knew his Dread Sphinx was here, so I put rangers all the way over here to take out the Dread Sphinx. Now that I'm looking at it, I think that was actually not necessarily the wisest, because I need to have shooting over here too. The main thing was, after he saw where my cannons were, he deployed most of his army back here, so my cannons were unable to really target him. And yeah, it's just another, I've been through this before with the cannons. There's a lot of tough maps right now for cannons, right? Where do you put a cannon? If I put the cannon over here so we can't just hide, then he just moves over back here. And then this cannon can't shoot anything. So the cannon placement of this guy, I'm not sure this is great, but it is what it is. Knights just to try to charge the giant if he comes forwards. Yeah, so that's basically all I have on deployment. Thoughts? Alright, so movement, and now that I've actually played the battle and I've been thinking back through it, so I pushed forwards, and I think I pushed forwards because when I played Undying Dynasties a couple weeks ago, I kind of ran over them, and so I figured the same thing would happen. I figured all I have to do is take out his Sphinxes, and my Flagellants can push in, and I can get a big win. So I was going for a big win, and that's basically it. Um, yeah, so I push forward. I have scoring units so I can score the objective, and then Flagellants are here to stop his scoring units from coming in and getting objective. Looks like I moved the Knights forward just to put pressure on his giant. Um, so there you have it. Rangers moving forward, shoot at the Sphinx. Magic phase. How did I wound? So I did Quicksilver Lash on the scouts, try to whittle them down. Because the main issue with my deployment was I didn't really have anything within 24 inches for pyro. So that's the big issue with pyro. It's only 24 inches, and if deployment goes a certain way, it then it's sometimes hard to have things at target. So there you have it. Shooting wise, of course, shooting at the giants and the Sphinx. My Rangers got one wound on the Sphinx on this side. These Rangers got one wound on this Sphinx, and my cannons missed. So, his turn, he did a lot. So let's see. So his turn. His scouts charged my Rangers, and they fled. They fled through, and I took a lot of. I took dangerous terrain tests for running through my unit, and then I played a battle. I'm not sure. I should have taken DTs for running through a friendly. I think you only take DTs for running through a uh enemy unit. So sorry. That was probably a mistake. Is what it is. Uh, his magic. He doesn't do that much. The main thing, his catapult was just on fire this whole game. So his catapult was hitting me hard. Um, at first taking out Rangers because he recognizes that the Rangers are a threat to his Sphinxes. So those are the things he first targets. Over here, he uses his Banner of Relentless March. Well, first, he tried to charge my knights with the giant, and I stayed because I figured it's a pretty long charge. He needs like a 9 or something. So I stay. He fails. But then he uses, because he fails, to block me, then he uses his Banner of Relentless March on these skeletons. They push up right in front of me, and now my knights are kind of, to be frank, they're screwed. I should have just kept them back. I didn't really have an answer for the skeletons. I always forget when opponents have Banner of Relentless March, and I don't really take that into account. So that's something to remember for the future. Um, Other than that, he's just kind of dancing his Sphinx around, trying to stay out of line of sight of my cannon. What was that? Yeah, his shooting. This archer unit with the Arc of Ages in it, they just decimate my Rangers too. So, not fun for me. My turn, I charge Flagellants into his scouts. And that's it for charges. I try to pull the knights back. The problem with movement 7 knights is I can't really get them away from this unit. So I I don't I guess so I didn't do all the measures. There's a lot of players that before or while they're declaring charges, they move their unit and figure out if they can get their unit somewhere else during movement phase, and if they can't, then they declare a charge. I don't do that because I don't think that that's healthy for the game. So I made the decision without playing around with where my knight unit could move, um, that I wouldn't charge, and I should have just charged because obviously I couldn't get the knights anywhere, and so he was just gonna charge me, so I might as well have charged him, and I didn't. So there you have it. Um, that's it for movement, and then I decided to push my flagellants forward, and it's because in my mind, again, like I said, I wanna pressure him and put and see if I can get my flagellants into him. In my mind, I can take out his sphinxes, but this list is a lot different than the one I played before, and he's got an architect which keeps putting a 5-up fortitude save on things, which is tricky because I do manage to hit his sphinxes throughout the game and his giant, but then he keeps rolling 5+ and saving with the fortitude save. So, yeah, I should have just kept my flagellants back here, and I didn't. All right. Shooting though goes well with my cannons and my rangers. I'm actually able to take out the Dread Sphinx. So I'm feeling pretty good because now I've got this flank locked down, which is good. This flank is secured. Now I can focus all my attention on the bulk of his army. My Flagellants kill and overrun. Um, then on his turn, he charges his skeletons into my knights. I'm yeah. He was successful in bringing in. He rolled a 4, brought in his entombed skeletons here. So now, um, I have to protect my flank. And then he charges his Sphinx in, moves his scouts up to chaff my other flagellants. And now I'm starting to feel like, okay, now I've made several mistakes, right? I let my knights get charged. My rear flank is exposed from this entombed unit. His Sphinx is in my flagellants, and I can't countercharge because of his scouts. He also gets off the Cosmos spell on his Sphinx just to make it harder for me to hit him. And he gets through, I think that's the minus resilience spell, so that he can really shoot and hammer my flagellants with the catapult and his archers. Or actually, I think he hit my parent unit with the catapult, so that's why I'm missing some ranks. In combat, see how many his Sphinx just ate. There's 6 in the back row, and then he killed another 5. He killed 11 with the Sphinx, and I only did 1 wound to him, and he killed 11. The knights stay. I What do I do? Yeah, I feel like I have to get rid of these chaff, so I charge my flagellants into them. And then I have to turn these units around so that I'm not outflanked by his skeleton units. I do a pyro. I do pyro spells to try to blow up the skeleton unit. I think I also do a grape shot volley fire from the cannon, which only kills like 2 skeletons. It wasn't worth it at all. I should have just kept shooting at the giant. Alright. Not that much is happening here. I do get Stars Align off on the Flagellants. I thought that would help me bring down the Sphinx, but the Sphinx's resilience 8, and I'm only strength 5, and I did not take Flaming Swords. Because I wasn't taking the Sphinxes seriously, because I had killed the 2 Sphinxes pretty easily from range a couple weeks ago. So, I didn't respect the Sphinxes, basically. So, of course, he now takes care of my Knights. I think they must have fled off the board. He charges into my cannon and his Sphinx, and because I pulled my Flagellants far forward, now my flank is exposed to his Colossus. So that was the other problem. I should have kept them back so they couldn't get outflanked. But at least these Flagellants are now on the flank of the Sphinx, but I had forgotten to reform them properly, so I'm not going to get that many attacks on him. He gets off that spell again to reduce resilience, because at this point I'm just trying to stop buffs on this battle. Catapult. His catapult takes out a couple models on my scoring unit. Alright. course, he takes out my cannon and turns around, and he just kills the rest of my flagellants. Because these are monsters, and they're really good at killing infantry. So at this point, I'm kind of in like, I'm not sure what to do mode, because he just munched through a whole unit of flagellants, and he still only has 2 wounds on his. I've only done 2 wounds to his Sphinx. His giant is at full wounds. This flagellant unit is diminished to the point that I'm not sure it's going to be very effective. And this flagellant unit is so far away now that it can't really contribute in a meaningful way. So I, of course, charge these flagellants into the Sphinx because I need to prevent the Sphinx from charging and outflanking my heavy infantry. I then try to do Quicksilver Lash and Cannon Fire at the Giant. I charged these flagellants into the casket just to get rid of that casket. Um, then I turn and face. Oh yeah, I also turn and face with the heavy infantry so that I can try to cast spells onto the giant. And then I have to move these heavy infantry forward to block so that he can't outflank and get into my mage. Alright. Sphinx doesn't care that you're on the flank, he does full attacks and just is munching through these flagellants. Was able to do several wounds to the giant, but he's still there, right? He's still there. His ambush roll on his turn, he actually brings in his finally his Sandstalkers come on, and now they're at my rear because I was facing this way just in case. He pulls his giant back so that I can't magic him. And he charges his big unit into my parent guard. Alright. So he killed all my flagellants. And then, because my flagellants all died. Am I missing a screenshot? Okay. So I'll go through this. His Sphinx finished off my flagellants. Because a unit within 6 was destroyed, these guys had to take a break test, and I rolled an 11. So they fled. Because I don't have a BSB. And they fled over here. Which was actually kind of good, because now his Sphinx can't charge him. So what do? I move my Arcane Engine here to block him so the Sphinx can't charge the flank of my parent unit. Because if the Sphinx charges in, my general and my parent unit is a goner. So I block this. I figure, yeah, he could charge my Arcane Engine, but at least then it's, I don't know. I feel like that's better. I rally and I reform so that I'm facing this way. So he can't charge with them. Then on my magic phase, I throw a lot of pyro spells and ranger shots at his stalkers and take them out. Again, cannon is not able to take out the Sphinx. I really needed to. Luckily, because I have parry and distracting, I'm able to hold against these skeletons. He's really trying to buff this combat with the 5-up Aegis save I'm not able to stop. What was he charging? I don't remember. I pop my mage out so that I can turn and face his skeletons. And then on his last turn, he charges his Sphinx into my heavy infantry to deny me objective. My mage, oh, he must have, like, charged it. And it fled or something. Why did it? I think it fled from the giant. So Sphinx charges into my heavy infantry, and they hold just because I need to try to win objective. Giant charges, I fail terror or I opt to flee. Because at least then that's only half points, not full points if the giant gets into it. So I end up back here. And my general unit fights in combat, gets to hold, and this is the end of the game. So his Sphinx still only has 2 wounds on it. It ate through 2 units of flagellants and then was able to deny objective. Just this single Sphinx. I could not bring it down. Yeah, it's just really frustrating that I couldn't kill the Sphinx. I guess I got lucky with this Sphinx, or I don't know what. It just I was real frustrated. But some things that I learned because, like I said, are I can't control what my cannons do, right? I can place my cannons in strategic places, but when they roll to hit and roll to wound, I can't control that. So, what are some things I could have controlled? I could have, yeah. So anyway, I'll go through the score. So it ended up being 7-13 on points. Because at least I still have my general. I did kill his Dread Sphinx. I killed his casket. I killed both of his scouts units. I killed his stalker unit. And I guess that's it. He killed 2 units of my flagellants. He killed a ranger unit, and he killed a cannon, and he killed a heavy infantry unit. And oh, it looks like he got my mage too. And my other mage is fleeing. So it ended up being 7-13. So at least that wasn't. It could have been a lot worse. I'm gonna go. Let's go look at deployment. Well, anyway, I'll just leave it here. So. So, for the one thing in the middle, I never should have brought my flagellants forward. I should have just kept them back by the objective. Because there was no way, I should have recognized this. There was really no way he was going to get a scoring unit and actually score objective. So, all I had to do the whole game was sit on the objective and pour everything I could into his sphinxes and his giants. Because his skeleton units can't fight my flagellants. And if I had done that and protect the objective, then it becomes a 13-7 win for me. And then if I get lucky and take out the sphinxes before they even get to me, it becomes a bigger win. So my mistakes were I pushed my flagellants way too far forward. I should have kept them back. And let me see. And the knights again. I don't know what to do with the knights. In future lists, I don't think I'm taking knights because I don't know how to use them. So I think the knights are only good if you have like chaff and stuff, and I don't really use a lot of chaff, so I'm probably not gonna take knights anyway. But I should have kept the knights back, right? 'Cause if I keep the knights back here, then the giant can't. If I keep the knights between the impassable and my cannon, his giant can't get close enough to the cannon without being charged by the knights. Now he could bring up, and he was going to bring up his skeletons because he doesn't care if my knights charge him, so he can just move up slower. But that gives me another turn or two to shoot at his giant instead of pushing my knights forwards. So I played just too hyper. I played too aggressively with my knights and flagellants, and I should have just kept them back and zone stuff. So there you have it, 7-13 loss. Good game with Beowulf. Hope that you learned something from that, and hope that you have a good rest of your day. Stay fuzzy.